Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we're going to be making this very beautiful dress that you can see on your screen. If you're interested, keep on watching and let's get started. So we're going to start with the pattern drafting and we'll start with the upper bodice. I already have my pattern paper on my work table. So we'll start by taking our point. Okay, so the first point I'm going to take is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. I'm going to indicate the 10 inches with a dot and I'm going to rule a straight line across. The next point you should take is the distance from your shoulder to your under bust point, and the next point is the distance from your shoulder to your waist point, which is also going to serve as your half length, and then go ahead and add half an inch, okay, to your half length for stitching allowance. So the first point I have here is my bust line, which is 10 inches. The next point is my under bust line, which is 13 inches. I'm going to roll a straight line across. The next point is my waist point, which is 16 inches, and I added half an inch to that measurement for stitching allowance. The next thing I'll do is to place half of my shoulder measurement, okay, from the center front. I'll place half of my shoulder measurement. I will indicate that with a dot. On that dot, I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll slant from there into the neckline area. After getting my shoulder slope, the next thing I'll do is to place my tape like this, and I'll go down by half of the round armhole circumference I'm working with. The round armhole circumference I'm working with is 18 inches. 18 divided by 2 is 9 inches. That is why I went down by 9 inches and I indicated the 9 inches with a dot. The next thing I'll do is to place the same 8 inches, which is my shoulder measurement that I have on the shoulder line. I'll place it on that particular line, and then I'll mark the 9 inches all the way around to get a straight line. After doing that, I'll rule a straight line across. So this new line is going to serve as my chest line. Another way to get your chest line is to go up by 2 inches from your bust line. The next thing I'll do is to connect from the shoulder slope to meet this chest line like this. The next thing I'll do is to place my tape on my chest line, and I'll take my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll indicate that. After doing that, I'll place my tape on this straight line, and I'm going to divide what I have into 2 equal halves. So what I have is 8 inches. Half of 8 inches is 4 inches. I indicated that. On that 4 inches dot, I went inward by half an inch. I also indicated the half an inch. I'm going to use the curved part of my ruler to connect from the shoulder slope to meet the half an inch, and from there to meet the point that I have on the chest line like this. After doing that, guys, next thing I'll do is to take my bust pan measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 4 inches, so I'm going to take the 4 inches on the waistline. I'll take the 4 inches on the bust line and on the under bust line. Okay, after doing that, I'm going to connect the 3 dots into a straight line. So after doing that, guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to take in my dart. So on the center front, I'm going to take half an inch on the waistline and on the under bust line, and on the side front, which is the side facing me, I'll be taking half an inch on the waistline and on the waistline and on the under bust line. So it depends on how busty you are. If you are very busty, you can take 1 inch on the center front and 1.5 inches on the side front. Okay, so for me, I took half an inch on the center front and I took 1.5 inches on the side front. So I connected the dots into a straight line. On the bust line, I went down by 1 inch. I indicated the 1 inch. I'm going to use the curved part of my ruler to connect from the under bust line to meet the 1 inch mark that I came down with. Okay, so make sure this line is not too straight and it's not too curvy either. On the center front, I'm just going to connect it like this. I don't want it to be a curved line, so I just went ahead to slant it to meet the 1 inch mark. The next thing I'll do is to determine the type of neckline that I want. So for the width, I'm going to go out by 4 inches, which I'll still adjust later. And for the depth, you can see that the thumbnail. On the thumbnail it's a V neckline, so for now I'll go down by 7 inches, and then I'm going to slant from the neck width to meet the neck depth, as you can see. After doing that, guys, we're going to draft out the princess dart bustier part. So what I'll do is to place my tape on this curve that I have on the armhole area. Okay, I'll measure it. What I have is 9 inches on this curve, so I'll mark the middle of 9 inches, which is 4.5 inches, and I'll indicate that. After doing that, I'm going to place my tape on this dart leg, and I'll connect from the dart leg to meet the 4 inches mark. So just look at what I am doing. You can use any type of curve roller that you have. Okay, so after connecting, guys, this is what I have. I'm going to extend it to meet this particular line. Okay, so I'll extend it. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do is to take that on the two sides of this curve, okay, to avoid gaping. So what I'll do is to take half an inch on both sides. Okay, I'll take half an inch up and I'll take half an inch down, and I'll blend it back into this curve. So just look at the way I'm doing it. You can use your free hand to also achieve this. So I'm going to blend it back. Okay, so when we sew the dart on the armhole area, it's not going to gape. That is why I'm taking this dart. After connecting, this is what I have. I'll blend it into this curve. Okay, so I'm going to place my tape and I'll measure the dart that we took, which is 1 inch. So I'm going to extend this part by the 1 inch, just so we don't run short of fabric when we are sewing. You know, when you take that, it becomes smaller. So I'm replacing the dart that we took. That is why I'm extending this line by 1 inch. Okay, so on the bust line, we already have our bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. So what I'm going to do is to add 2 inches to that measurement for my stitching allowance. Okay, so I'm going to now create another armhole. I'll connect from this 1 inch extension to meet this part now. So this is the armhole we are working with. We are not working with the other one again. So on the under bust line, I'm going to place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart of 2 inches and I'll add 2 inches for my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace this dart of 2 inches and I'll add 2 inches for my stitching allowance. After doing that, I'm going to connect like this. Okay, so I'll connect. After connecting, I don't like the curve that is giving me, so I'm just going to blend it in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to now go ahead and adjust the neckline. So you can see on the thumbnail, the shoulder area is not that wide, so I'll come in like this by 2.5 inches. 2.5 inches is how wide I want the shoulder area to be. Okay, so I'm going to now connect from that 2.5 inches back into the neck depth. Okay, so as you can also see in the thumbnail, the neck depth is a sweetheart neckline. Okay, so I'll try to use the curved part of my roller to connect like this, and then I'll shape it when I'm cutting on my fabric. So the wideness of my shoulder right now is 2.5 inches, which is okay for me. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to go ahead and cut. Please pay close attention so you know where to cut. So guys, after cutting, this is what we have for the front. I'm going to label my side front and my center front. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and draft out the back. So for the back, I've gone ahead to mark out my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches and I connected into a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead and take the points that I'll be needing for the back. So the distance from my shoulder to my chest line, just like we did earlier, we don't need the bust point and we don't need the under bust point. So I'm just going to start with the chest line because that was where we placed our bust circumference on the front pattern. So the chest line is 9 inches, the waistline is 16 inches plus the half an inch allowance. Okay, so 16.5 inches. I'll rule straight lines across the points. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to take half of my shoulder measurement. Okay, I'm going to take the measurement after the zipper allowance. So the zipper allowance is not included in this measurement. So after the zipper allowance, I'll place my tape and take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate the 8 inches with a dot. On that 8 inches mark, I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll slant from there into the neckline area. Next thing I'll do is to go down by half of my round armhole circumference, which is 9 inches. That's the line I already marked. Okay, I'll place my tape on the shoulder line, and what I have there is 8 inches. I'll place the same 8 inches on the chest line. Okay, after doing that, I'm going to now connect from the shoulder slope to meet the chest line. So this is what we also did for the front. After connecting, guys, I'm going to go ahead and place my bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. I'll indicate that with a dot, and then I'll place my tape on this straight line, and I'll divide what I have into 2. I'll indicate the middle point. After doing that, I'm going to use the curved part of my ruler to connect from the middle point to meet the point that we have on the chest line, like this. So guys, next thing I'll do is to take my dart. So I'll take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'll take that on the waistline, and I'll take that on the chest line. I'll connect the 2 dots into a straight line. After doing that, I'm going to take half an inch on both sides of the straight line, and I'll connect back to meet the chest line. If you're on a big side, you can take 1 inch on both sides of the straight line, but for me, I'll be doing half an inch on both sides, and I'll connect back to meet the chest line like this. So guys, next thing we'll do is to start placing our measurements. We already have the bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. I went ahead to add 2 inches for my stitching allowance. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart, and I'll add 2 inches for stitching allowance. After doing that, I'll connect the dots like this. Okay, so the next thing is to determine the type of neckline that you want for the back, but the shoulder for the front and that of the back should be the same. So as you can see, I went inward by 2.5 inches, which is the same thing that we have for the front, and it depends on how deep you also want the back neckline to be. For me, I went up by 2 inches from my chest line, and I'm just going to connect from the neck width. Okay, I'll connect from that 2.5 inches mark like this to meet the neck depth, and then I'm just going to connect into the zipper allowance like this. After doing that, guys, the last thing I'll do is to adjust the zipper area. So I have 1.5 inches as my zipper allowance. On this waistline, I'm going to take out half an inch to avoid zip bulge, and then I'll connect it back into the neckline area, as you can see. So we're just going to cut this part out. So guys, that is all for the back pattern. I'm just going to go ahead and cut. After cutting, guys, this is what I have. So we have the front pattern and the back pattern. So what we'll do now is to draft out the skirt part. So I already have my pattern paper. So you are going to be needing pattern paper for this, especially if you don't want to waste too much of your fabric, and the pattern paper has to be on fold because we want to cut out a full skirt. Okay, so this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead and start taking my points. So the start of this pattern paper is going to serve as my waistline. Okay, the first point I'll take is the distance from my waist to my hip, which is 10 inches. Okay, I'll mark the 10 inches as you can see, and I'm going to roll a straight line across the point. The next point I'll take is this distance from my waist to my knee line. So place your tape on your waistline and mark from there to where your knee is. Okay, so what I'm working with is 23 inches. That's the distance from the waist to the knee length. Okay, it's 23 inches. I'm going to mark 23 inches and I'll roll a straight line across. The next thing you do is to mark the length of your skirt. Okay, so you're going to determine how long you want your dress to be, then you minus your half inch from it. Okay, so I used 16 inches for my half length. Okay, I'm going to take out 16 inches before I take my dress length. So after marking the length of my skirt, I'll go ahead and start placing my measurements on this waistline. From the folded edge, I'm going to take my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On the hip line, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll add 1.5 inches for my stitching allowance. On my knee line, I'm going to take out 1 inch from what I have on the waistline. So on the waistline, I have 12 inches. So on this knee line, I'm going to mark 11 inches. Okay, I'll mark 11 inches, and then I'm going to connect from the waistline to meet the hip line like this, and from the hip line I'll connect to meet the knee line like this. After doing that, on the base of my skirt, I'll remove 2 inches from what I have on the knee line, because I want the base of the skirt to be fitted. But if you don't want yours to be fitted, go ahead and just connect it straight down from the knee line. But because I want mine to be fitted, I'm going to mark 9 inches. Remember, I have 11 inches on the knee line. On the skirt length, I'll mark 9 inches, and I'll connect from the knee line to meet the skirt length like this. After connecting, I'll go ahead and cut out this excess pattern paper, and we have our full skirt. Okay, so I'm going to open it up like this, and I'm going to extend the lines that we have to the other side of this pattern paper. I'll extend the waistline and the hip line, as you can see me doing. So go ahead and do that. So guys, after extending the lines, I went ahead to label the lines also. I'm going to fold my pattern paper back, okay, because I want to use this one now to cut out the back, because I don't want to now draft another back. And before I forget, I'm using 4 yards of Ankara print for this tutorial. So to cut out the back, I'm going to fold my Ankara fabric into 2, as you can see. Okay, and I'm going to add my zipper allowance. Since it's the back I want to cut, we will be needing zipper allowance for the back. So I went ahead to add 1.5 inches allowance to the back, as you can see. Okay, so we didn't take our darts for the front because we don't need that for the front, but we'll be needing that for the back. So what I'll do is to extend the waistline, just the waistline, by 1 inch, which is going to now serve as our dart allowance. And then I'll now connect from that 1 inch into the hip area. I hope that you guys are not confused. If you don't want to go through this process, you can go ahead and draft out your back piece separately. Okay, because I already have this pattern paper, I just want to use it for both the front and the back. Okay, so as you can see, my zipper allowance is 1.5 inches. Okay, on the waist area, I'm going to extend it by 1 inch, which is going to serve as my dart allowance. I will indicate that. After doing that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect from that 1 inch into the hip area, as you can see. So the next thing I'll do is to go ahead and cut. So just look at the way I'm cutting. Okay, the only line I extended is the waistline. As you can see, I blended it into the hip area. After doing that, I went ahead to split the zipper allowance open. Okay, that is that for the back. I'm going to remove my pattern paper, and I'm going to notch my darts. So first of all, I'll take out the 1.5 inches zipper allowance. I'll indicate that. From that allowance, I'm going to place my bust pan measurements divided by 2, which is 4 inches. I'll indicate the 4 inches. That is where my dart is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and just notch it, just so I know where to take my darts when I'm sewing. So that is all for the back. I'm just going to go ahead and cut out lining piece for the back. So guys, what we'll do now is to draft out the wrap skirt. So the first thing I'll do is to go down by half an inch on the waist area of the front pattern. Okay, that's because I want the waist area to sit very well. I don't want it to bulge. Okay, so I'll go down by half an inch, and I'll connect into the other side of the waistline. As you can see, you can make it into a slant, and you can connect it just like this, whichever one you prefer. Okay, so I'll connect like this, and then I'll connect in a slant. So whichever one you want, you're going to do that for the front part of your skirt, and you see that the front part of your skirt is going to sit well. Okay, so after doing that, I'm going to cut it out. Okay, after cutting it out, guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to open up this pattern paper. On the knee line, I'll go up by 4 inches. Now this depends on how open you want your wrap skirt to be. You can do 5 inches, you can do 6 inches, but I went up by 4 inches. On this other side, I'll go inward by another 4 inches, so you can do 5 inches also. So I did 4 and 4 inches, which I later adjusted. So I'm not going to connect from this 4 inches to meet the other 4 inches. So just look at the way I'm connecting. Okay, so if you want your skirt to be really deep, you can do 3 inches on this particular end, and on that other end you can do like 5 inches or 6 inches. Okay, so I'm going to connect like this. So this is how open the wrap skirt is going to be, so you get to determine that for yourself. Okay, so after connecting, go ahead and blend it in. So this is what I have. I decided to go in more by 1 inch on that other end, so I'm going to just connect it back into this one. After blending it back, this is what I have. On this other end, I'm going to come inward by another 4 inches, and I will indicate the 4 inches. After doing that, I'll go to the hip line, and I'll come down from the hip line by 1.5 inches. I'll also indicate the 1.5 inches with a dot. After doing that, I'm going to now connect from this 1.5 inches to meet the 4 inches on the base. So just look at the way I'm using my ruler to connect it. Okay, I'll just slant all the way, okay, to meet the 1.5 inches like this. So guys, after connecting, I'm now going to connect from this 1.5 inches to meet the other side of the waistline. Okay, so I'm going to connect in a slant. I'll place my roller like this, and I'll slant from there all the way to meet this 1.5 inches mark. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the first line that I drafted. Okay, I'll cut that one out first, so just pay close attention so you know where to cut. Okay, I'm going to cut this one out first, and I'll use the pattern paper to cut out the first part of my skirt. So you notice that I cut through the 5 inches, not the 4 inches. That is how open I want the skirt to be. So I'm going to open my fabric up, and I'll place my pattern paper on it. So I'm not cutting it out on fold, I'm cutting out just one piece. This is just one side of the front pattern. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cut. So make sure you add half an inch to the opened area of the skirt, because you are going to turn this with your lining. Okay, so I added half an inch to it. After cutting out, guys, this is what I have. I'm going to remove my pattern paper, and I'll keep this aside. Okay, I'll bring back the pattern paper to my work table, and I'll bring back the side that I cut out earlier. Okay, I'm going to tape it back exactly as it was before. So go ahead and hold it down with your sellotape. Okay, I'll go ahead and do that. After doing it, guys, this is what I have. So what I'm now going to do is to cut through the other lines, as you can see. So I'm going to cut like this. I'll cut this part out, and then I'll cut this other part out. So this is the second part of our skirt, our front pattern. So I'm still going to place this on my fabric. I'm not going to fold it into two. I'm just cutting out one piece. I've gone ahead to do that, and you can see that I added my stitching allowance of half an inch to the sides. I also increased the length of my skirt. So I'm going to remove my pins. So guys, this is what we have. We have the two sides of our front pattern. This is how I'm going to place them side by side. Okay, the hip is going to match on the other end, and you can see what it looks like. So that is all for the pattern drafting. This tutorial is getting too long, so we are going to continue in the next tutorial. So don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.